In this section, we're just going to take a basic overview of using sounds in Flash. Flash will accept most common audio formats such as WAV, AAC, MP3, AIF file types. So I'm just going to import a couple of sound files here, a couple of very short sounds that probably would be used for buttons, and a longer one which is a small piece of music. So I'm just going to go File, Import, Import to Library. I don't want to put them on the stage. And I've got a folder here called Sound somewhere. And I'm just going to highlight all three items and click Open. Okay, if I go to my library, I can see those sounds. So if I highlight the sound, I actually can preview them in my library by clicking the play button. A little piece of music that I have. And I can hit the stop button to stop the sound. Now I can check the beep small sound. And again, a very short, quick sound. And this one also a very short, quick sound. There we go. Okay, so I've got three audio files in my library. Let me just collapse that now. And there are many ways of applying sound, especially with ActionScript. But if you want to apply sound in the timeline, it's as simple as highlighting the frame. I'll highlight the frame here. Go to my properties. And under sound, under name, anything that's in my library will appear on the list. Let's start with the beep small sound. Now you notice down here we've got an area called Sync. And if I go in this pull down menu, I have four options. One called Event, Start, Stop, and Stream. Basically, Event is intended for short sounds, typically as a button sound. What's unique about Event is if I have an event sound playing, let's say it's fixed to a button. If I hit the button again and the sound hasn't completed playing, it will play on top of itself. So I could conceivably, stack the same sound playing over and over on top of itself by repeatedly initiating that sound. Now that's probably fine for a button, but certain other things it's definitely not good. And that's what brings us to the Start Sync command, which will actually launch the sound, but it will not repeat itself unless it's actually fully played and completed. Only then will I be able to initiate that sound once more. The third item down actually just stops the sound. And the fourth item called Stream is one you're probably going to use the most. It's meant for longer pieces, such as music or potentially voiceovers, for example. Now Stream, as the word implies, streams the sound. Even though it could be a very large file, it will start to play almost immediately and then just load as it's going. But it will continue to play, and it will play almost immediately. The stream sound also will not overlap itself. The other important thing about the stream sound, that it will stay in sync with an animation. If it's playing along with an animation along the timeline, Flash will drop frames in order to stay in sync with the sound. So stream is by far probably the most widely used in Flash. Okay. Now I'm going to leave this set to Event for now. And by simply selecting this with my frame highlighted, let me just collapse this here. It might be hard to see, but if I zoom up here, there's a little audio file, or audio wave rather, in there. If I actually play my movie, you're just going to hear that little beep sound. So I'm just going to do a test movie here. And there it played. Now I'm just going to span my frames out here with an F5, just so you can actually see that audio wave. Let me create a new layer, and I'll just keyframe it over here, F6, and I'll put another sound in there. So with that frame highlighted, go to Properties, go to the pull down menu under Sound, and I'll choose Switch Camera On. This one I'll hit Start. Now you're not going to actually notice a difference here unless I was repeating this, but I just want to play it back anyway. I'll expand this out too so you can actually see the wave. There we go. So if I hit Test Movie, there they go. and flash does loop continuously. Now a third kind of sound, let me just create another new layer, is known as streaming. And let me get rid of these actually. Okay, now highlighting this, I'm just going to choose that longer sound. So I'll go to my pull down menu, choose Awareness 22, which is a piece of music, and I'll set my sync to stream. Now there is something about stream though that you need to be aware of. I have spanned this out, but let me do a test movie and demonstrate. Not hearing anything. The one thing about the stream sound is, I'm going to set my frames to tiny here, is that you actually do need to span it out for the duration of the piece of work. So if I go down here, I can just hit F5. And I can actually hear it play back too just by hitting my return key. But when it hits the end, it actually stops. So the one thing about streaming sound, when it's just put into a track, is that I need to span it out for the duration of the sound. So I might need to scroll across to the edge and keep hitting F5 on a frame further down until I don't see that audio wave anymore. And these sounds, you know, they can go for thousands of frames if it's a long piece of music. Let me just keep going down here. At some point it's going to run out. This seems to keep going here, but it will run out, and I just want to show you that. Okay, so I don't see anything here. Now if I start scrolling backwards, I will see the end. Okay, so there's the end. So I can actually highlight that frame and shift click on the final frame and go shift F5 to delete all those selected frames and end it there. Now if I go back to the beginning, put my playhead here, I'm just going to do a test movie again. Now we can hear it play. Okay, so I'm going to close that, but it will play out the full song now that I've allowed it room to play. Now let's say you want to play this, you know, on a single frame. Well, all you need to do is basically nest this whole span inside of a movie clip. So if I Now there are a few other things I can address with the sound when it's just put on a track like this. Let me highlight that keyframe again. Go to my properties. You notice there's an effects pull down menu. I can do fades, and I can also go to my custom window and actually set the volume. So I'm looking at a left and right channel here, and if I can keyframe it, so I can click here for example and do a manual fade in. And I can adjust the duration of that. And I can, oh, looks like I lost it there. Let me just pull that back up. And I can have this going up and down, all around. But the point here is that I can actually control the volume with this custom envelope. So this should, it might not be enough going on here. Yeah, let me just go out a bit further and just drag this out, and I can see the sound wave starting here. So let's say, let me go back out here, and I'll just take this down to about there, and I can see, you know, the 30-second mark here. And I can also reduce the view. So if I add another keyframe here and another one here, I can say this is going to ramp down and then quickly ramp up and then slowly ramp down again. So I'll just collapse that, and we'll just test that. you can hear it getting lower there, and then it got loud again. So that was that spot that I had created. Let me just highlight that again. So it went down. If I want to change it, I hit the edit button. Went down and then up, and then slowly started to go down again, and then a very quick up in the volume. Now, one other thing that I have available to me in the properties window is that I can actually set it to loop or to repeat a given number of times. So I could say repeat it twice, for example. But remember, I would need to allow for that to play. Okay? So those are the very basics of applying sound to a track in Flash.